Progressive viewers, this is Satellite Media. Mr. Chinedu Michael, help us understand why some people feel that the Igbos are endangered species in Nigeria. And some people have said these are resident people, hardworking people who are in every strata, not just in Nigeria, but of the world, and doing good.
I think it's a transferred hatred from the beginning of the amalgamation of this country, where the Britain discovered that Igbos were people, of distinct clan. Let me put it that way. And people who understand themselves, people who practice democracy, people who knows how to carry people along, do some certain things that are surprised even when the Portuguese came. And secondly now, the fact that the Igbos were being discovered as one of the tribes in Africa that were thoroughly involved in circumcision, like what is being written in the Bible, From there, they begin to look at them as people who are, extraordinary, in terms of what they do and how they go about doing it. That was what was ongoing until the amalgamation came, and they felt that the British government felt that it took them over 30 to 40 years to be able to break into the Igbo clan, and not to talk about other regions like in the north and the west. The Yorubas themselves actually invited them to come, and colonize them. But in the northern part of the country, it was just more like a walkover. So if Igbo, we are formidable forces. We are formidable in their own right. They stood against certain things, and especially the influence of colonization at that time. That was why somebody like Chuna Chebe came up with the historical part of it, of what transpired between the British colonial masters and of course what happened in the Igbo region as at that time. That was what gave back to things fall apart. You can see how Okonkwo became the man of our time. That Okonkwo, the figure there, Okonkwo, represents the Igbo we are talking about. So the British government, we are the people who are in a position to tell the whole world, why we experience the Igbo hate, courtesy of the way and manner they are able to, bring trust and empower the Northerners. You understand? Against specifically the southern Nigeria. The southern Nigeria the area we are talking about is mainly Igbo they are looking at. So that was what was actually being played out completely, and it's still, no matter how you are looking at it, you can see that trace is there. So that hatred, of Igbo championing Africanism, championing anti-colonial rule as at that time, attracted hatred, from the colonial masters. And that hatred was eventually transferred to political power, which was ceded to the North. So, and the North used it as a leverage to further negotiate Nigeria at the end of the day. So, unless we step out a bit, or we dismantle that what have led to that hatred coming from the British government. One, they made it very clearly that the issue of about women riot, you can remember, was purely anti-colonial protest as at that time, and it was completely a riot. And from there, the British began to pack their bags and started preparing to leave Nigeria and of course leave Africa. Secondly, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, an Igbo man too, when he came in contact with the likes of Kwame Nkrumah and Herbert Macaulay, these are the people who came together and started championing, the exit of colonial masters from Africa. So they look at it from that angle that, these people are a threat. So that was the generation, that was the genesis, of the supposed Igbo hate, or whatever anybody can feel about it, But in the right direction, you can see that those things were the nature of what Igbos are made up of, So at the end of the day, the Britain, used the northern interests as at that time powered them, against the south. And the south, when they're looking at the south, they're not typically looking at the Yorubas themselves. They were targeting the Igbos, and that was why, if you look at what Chukwumanzogo was trying to achieve as at that time, was basically to make sure that as at that time, the Ahmadu Bellos of this world, were not able to use the planned coup of 1966 that's supposed to take place on the 17th January 1966. That coup was actually being powered by the British government, in conjunction with Ahmadu Bello and Tafawa Balewa. And the aim of that coup was to enthrone Islamization government, jihadist movement, that would have silenced, because that was what they wanted to achieve. They would have used that coup that's supposed to have taken place on the 17th to silence anything that had to do with Igbo. Already, they have already transferred that hatred to the Northerners, and that was how we found ourselves until Chukwumanzogo, having sensed that, carried his own a kind of coup on the 15th, and that coup was a counter coup. But the people doesn't know what was happening between those republics as at that time, because of what was already on ground. And the aim of that coup was to make Nigeria, a welfarist nation that will be championed by Obafemi Awolowo as at that time. So that lineage, that hatred, that line, that transferred hatred, is what is holding, they are still holding on up to today. But subsequently, you can see that did not stop the Igbo, from engaging in whatever they feel that is purely an injustice. What led us to the war, and where we find ourselves to this moment, is as a result of what transpired in that era, and coupled with the struggle for survival, the struggle to stop, ethnic genocide, that was going on since 1953 against the Igbos. That war that subsequently led to the war, and after the war, the issue of 20 pounds, the issue of struggle for survival came up, and the Igbos has been battling, until a time it became very significant, that nobody can stop them anymore, until we find ourselves where we are today. And every point in time, we are trying to leverage on the political structure here in Nigeria to be able to advance ourselves politically as it was before. You can see that somewhere along the line, if you are not able to be invited in the Charter House, we will not be able to make it to the presidency. So anybody you see in the Charter House becomes the Nigerian presidency. Why is it? Now we begin to ask ourselves, why is it that every political era where there is electioneering campaign and all that, people who visit or who are invited to the Charter House automatically becomes the president of this country? How come? It's because that tells you that they still want go there to renew whatever hatred they have been transferred to. The British government has transferred to them to renew whatever agreement they have had with their forefathers against the emergence of Igbo politically in the country. So it has a multiplying effect. It has a spiral effect, and that spiral effect is what we are seeing up to this moment. So the struggle is very clear that Igbo need to understand that there's need for them not to be part of this continuous, marginalization, hatred, as a result of whatever that has transpired in the past has not been handled properly. So the issue of Igbo hatred is not something that started now. It is something, that was transferred to a certain region in this country, and as a result of that, they continue to build on it, until where we are presently.
Let me say very big thank you for your time, Mr. Chinedu Michael. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.